Truth. What better way to start the second day than to speak about truth? It is very paradoxical, very slippery slope, and a lot of people don't care about truth. In fact, most people, they deny truth because it's the same way as seeing yourself naked. And perhaps there's certain things you might dislike about your body. There's certain things about the character traits that you can see on a naked body. It reveals certain patterns about your character. Are you slim? Are you fat? Are you hygienic? Are you keeping a good hygiene? Or perhaps are you more dirty, filthy, and whatnot? Truth is difficult because it's very subjective in a certain sense, and at the same time, it's also relative and absolute. Truth for me, as I've come to discover through a philosophical or psychological model named spiral dynamics, which were invented in the 1960s by two, let's not get into the detail, spiral dynamics. And spiral dynamics is a phenomenal model that actually teaches the cognitive evolution of mankind and how we relate to one another, but especially how we relate to reality. So it goes like this. Truth is highly subjective, and it depends on who is looking at reality. So you can imagine we have these stages going from very, very aware, without any particular context, without any language, without any symbolism, all the way from that point where it's very archaic, meaning it's very old fashioned and very, very simplistic. At this level of cognitive function, there is no distinction between you and I. There is no I, there is no you, there is no language, there is no symbolism. In the same way that you understand this because you understand culture, you understand language, you understand literature, but that's all taken for granted because you don't think of that. You don't think that the words I'm saying has a meaning because the meaning is already interpreted by the mind. Like you don't think about the words as much as just the meaning of it. And so here it's where it gets tricky because truth is like an onion. You can keep peeling and peeling, and you just get a more focused and more crystal clear truth. And so the question is, are you able to see that truth in yourself? Are you able to look at yourself in the mirror and actually see the defaults, the problems, the mistakes, the patterns? But also, are you able to see the opportunities, the new possibilities, the expanded consciousness? Because seeing truth is not easy, which is why most people won't do it. And we live, as you might have guessed, in a world that is divided in so many different aspects of our lives. It's not just religion, it's not just business, it's not just economics, it's not just culture. There are so many different multifaceted point of view you can take. And so when you get born, it's like, what do you believe in? What is the status quo? Because you might have not thought about the idea that when you get born, a baby doesn't get out of the womb of a woman and then think to themselves, oh, these are communists. These are religious people, and I don't want to subscribe to this notion of what they believe in. I don't want to be a communist. I don't want to be whatever. No, a baby just adopt that without thinking about the truth in it. And so where you're coming from, if you're born in a Western country, you have certain beliefs adopted already from your birthright. And so it gets really tricky because the truth of seeing that can be boiled down to, are you able to see the other perspective? Are you able to see the other person? Are you able to take a new perspective on your life than what you have currently taken? And so this might mean for you that you made a mistake. This might mean that perhaps you shouldn't continue with your addiction. Perhaps you shouldn't continue with this dysfunctional relationship. Perhaps you shouldn't continue in the same path that you've always been on. But that requires character, that requires truth. And so I'm not saying here that addictions or obsessions or whatever the thing that you might be having is wrong or right. That's not my job for me to tell you. That's your job for you to tell yourself. And so my truth is cultivated, your truth is also cultivated. And that's why you see in the digital age right now, there's so much, it's like a spectrum, and the polar opposites end, or like the opposites end, the opposites of each end is so vastly different. You have extremist Islamic culture, but you also have Buddhism. You also have patriarchal system, but you also have a holistic, more hippie sort of perspective. And so a lot of people will get into truth and then deny all of the others. And that's the trap. Thinking that you're more right. Thinking that your worldview or your point of view is more valid than the other. Instead of just living your life and figuring out for yourself. So back to the model. It goes like this. It goes from very archaic, many years ago, pre-language. This was at a time where humans didn't have language. And so this stage, let's call it beige, because that's the color code in spiral dynamics. It goes from beige to mystic, which is purple. And so the purple layer is more like, it's closer to tribalism and more like mystical thinking, which is an identicator of how they're thinking. So in this time, people back in the day started to develop language, but not language as we know it. It was more like words and, sounds rather than literature or language. It was pre-language. And so these people will go around and then have the thinking of, okay, if we dance here, the rain is going to come and we're going to get, the possibility to get grains or, get food because we have danced for the volcano and now the volcano will provide us with food. And these tribes expanded together. And at this point in time, if you were getting mad or getting emotionally stirred up, you would notice whether it was coming from yourself or another person. And so when we get from this mystical stage, which is purple, we get into stage red. And this is where these tribes all around the world covered so much space of the planet that they would encounter each other. And here's the big distinction, and here's the ego formation within your own psyche that you are having right now, where you are having your consciousness, your awareness. So this is the stage where it's very, very survival driven. It's you or me, an eye for an eye. It's kind of like this gangster mentality. or the Roman Empire, where they would slaughter and rape all of the people in the village. If they weren't killed, they were being raped. But after a lot of years, after the Roman Empire, and humans invented language, and we have literature, and as technologies expanded or grew back then, humans started to notice that maybe we shouldn't kill each other. Maybe we should do something else. This is where we look up, and the book from heaven came, where God is created, or religion. This is stage blue. And stage blue is a lot about traditions, order, and obeying the higher norm, following through on the religious pursuit, whether that be Islamic, Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, or whatnot. This is just across all of the religions. And after that, we got so advanced, and we got to a point in time where we started to use technologies, and we started to use data to explain how reality functions, which led to stage orange, which is the materialistic paradigm. This is what has been going on for around, I would say, 400 years, 300 years, where it's a lot about, well, can you objectify it? Can you make that data? And if you can't make data, it's not true. And so this is actually a point in time in a personal experience where I was very into Einstein and astrophysics, and just a lot of things about nature and how reality functions, or how reality works. And a typical stand, or a typical point of view that a stage orange person has, is they would look down upon the blue layer, the people living within the religious paradigm, and they would say to them that, oh, well, this is just religious dogma. You should believe my thing because it's more objective, because it's the truth. It's the truth. It's how everything is built from atoms, built upon molecules, building cells, building tissue organs, building, and so on and so forth. And after this stage, we come to this hippie stage, which is green. And this is kind of like, well, all point of view have their own sets of values, and where you're coming from will determine how you're seeing reality. And so you might think, okay, well, why does this matter? Well, that's a good point. Because truth in all of these paradigms is subjective. So you would go to an atheist, or you can go to a person who is highly religious, and you can talk about the facts. You can talk about how religion is superstition. You can also talk about how religion is something for the elite to capture the herd, the rest of the world. You can also have a different interpretation of what religion is. The point is just that religion doesn't exist. It's wrong, because you have the belief that, well, materialistic paradigm, and if you can prove it by science, it makes sense. And so what does this have to do with truth? Well, you see, depending on who you're talking to, will be relative to what they're saying is truth. And so I would argue that a lot of people, also personally me, are scared of the truth. You're scared of facing the demons, your shadow, the traumatic experiences from your past. But denying all of these things will make you far, far accurate from the truth. Because without all of the data, without all of the experiences, without including all of your conscious experiences, you are cutting yourself short, and you might as well amputate your arms or legs. That's how it works. And right now, you're probably denying a lot of truths in your life, which is the reason why you're sitting at this point. Because you don't want to face the shadows. In the same way that us as a humanity, we don't want to face the problems of addictions and all of the other systemic problems with inequality, you know, racism, and all of these big, big problems that we're having. Because it's not up to one person, it's up to the culture, it's up to the global sets of values. But how can we define truth when it's just relative? Hence, we're making it into a battlefield where truth is thrown around, and well, we have all different truths, right? And a quick point: Charlie Kirk, probably known him, probably seen him online. He is using Stage Blue and kind of portraying that as the truth in an absolute sense, which triggers a lot of people, and also with the things he's saying or was saying triggers a lot of responses, because some people will deny religion, will deny God, will deny all of these different things because it's dogma, it's bullshit, right? But I don't really care about what you think about Charlie or what you think about other people and whatnot. But like the truth can be distorted in such a fucking crazy way, in the same way how we led to World War II. Because the truth was that the Jews were the problem. The truth was that they were stealing from Germany, which is what Hitler used as a metaphor or as fuel power. Generalization, of course, there's a lot of other things that has happened, but he used that as the truth fueled to make a lot of power and to make a lot of horrific stuff. That's at least my point of view. And to follow through on his agenda. So that was a little background story. So truth is not something, it's very difficult. Because if we could define it, it would be such an easy thing. If we could measure truth, it would be such an easy thing. But you might have seen that a lot of things in your life, personally my life, where I'm like, this is not true. This can't be right. And this is just because some people are living in a different paradigm. Some people are okay with the status quo. Some people are okay with believing that they want a thing they actually don't want. For example, drug epidemic and, fast food, social media, attention. Like, people will go to the extremes just to prove their own fucking point. People will dance online and make funny videos and almost reveal their own body parts just to get some attention. Like, where's the truth in that? How do you do? Where's the integrity in that? And I'm not judging other people. I'm just letting you know of what I'm thinking, and I think it's ridiculous. I think it's selling yourself short. OnlyFans, whatever. Like, aren't you meant for more? In the same way, if you have a drug problem or alcohol problem or smoking problem or whatnot, aren't you meant for more? Can't you see that the truth might lie in you giving up the thing, or at least having a healthier relationship to the thing? And can you face that truth? Are you willing to give up the power that it has over you and regain it? Are you able to be truth to yourself and actually tell yourself that no baby was born and thinking, I want to do heroin or I want to smoke, and try to tell that to a 60-year-old person who has smoked their entire lives, where smoking is wrapped up in their identities, and they actually believe that, of course I want to smoke because I like it. No, you don't. It's culture. It's systemic problem. You only like it because it was available at a given time, and now you're just addicted. An addiction is something we all have. If it's not a drug, or if it's not smoking, or if it's not alcohol, then it could be a healthy addiction or obsession, referring to the hustle culture, the productivity, the grind, grind, grind. You should make more money, you should get more views, you should whatever. Where's the truth in that? There's half a billion people, like half a billion people are starving, and a billion people are overeating and or are obese. Where's the truth in that? How does it make sense when we can allocate resources to all humans instantly because we have the tools, we have the technology. But you see, the truth is, the world is in hardcore fuckery mind, and if you don't take what's yours, it's going to be taken from you. And what's even more crazy, which is true, is depending on where you're living and depending on where you're coming from, will determine a lot of your opportunities, and that's just a matter of the fact. You see, if I was born in rural Africa, I would have a lot less opportunities than if I was born as a white guy in a Western country. So we're getting to the 20 minutes, so I just want to leave you with this thought about truth. Is that the amount of willingness you are towards the truth, the amount of potential there is to gain. The paradoxical thing is, truth is difficult, and truth is coming from within. And people will deny the truth. People will tell you all sorts of things just to get you to adopt their worldview. But I'm saying that you shouldn't listen to me. You should find your own truth. And we're just talking about the structure here, not the content. So I'm not here to judge you about any addictions or whatever. That's not the point. That's far from the point. And so if you're getting offended, you might have to look in the mirror one more time, because it's self-projected. You are projecting it onto me, and I'm just a symbol for that conscious experience. But can you be true to yourself and actually distinguish this interpretation versus how you're feeling? Can you separate the two things and actually make the change? So I want to leave you with a small truth, is that I think this is fucking difficult because I have a lot of stuff that I've studied, and I feel like I'm competing in a candy land where I'm selling broccoli, because this is the hard part. This is the rough path. But you know what? It's the only fucking path that works. If anyone is trying to sell you something, trying to make something mystical or magical outside of you, and not empowering you from within, they're not telling you the truth, because you are the shiniest object in the universe. But you have to fucking realize that. You have to fucking take that into your account, into your own hands, take accountability,